Hey, my friend, and welcome to Aligned to Rise, the podcast for ambitious women who are ready to rise above their symptoms, release old limitations, and fully rise into their true power and potential. I'm your host, Alyssa Chavez, functional nutritionist, performance coach, and former endo and infertility warrior who knows what it's like to feel held back by your body and your beliefs. I've taken a journey of true healing from the inside out so that I can show up feeling great in my body, confident and unstoppable. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Through a blend of functional nutrition and deep mindset work, this show will empower you to reclaim your vitality, trust your intuition, and live unapologetically in your purpose. If you're ready to align your body, mind, and spirit so you can rise to your highest potential, you're in the right place. Let's rise, my friend. This show was created for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for medical advice or treatment. Hey, my friend, and welcome back to Aligned to Rise. I am so thrilled to share today's guest with you. Her name is Jill Mueller. We connected recently, and I absolutely love the work that she does. We had a little conversation a few weeks back, and actually a few months back, I guess at this point, and I just really enjoyed her experience and her journey and all of the things that she talks about. So Jill is a physiotherapist. She's been doing that since 2001, but her journey really started from her own health, like so many of us in the healing space here. So she struggled for years with period pain and fertility challenges because of having endometriosis, which I know is familiar to myself and so many of my listeners as well. But she decided to really shift her focus to understanding and addressing the complexities of this condition. So she has really taken some deep dives into pain science and endometriosis research, which I think is so incredibly fantastic. She has so much to share about all of that. I'm going to let her dive into that today. But she really is passionate about helping people who have period pain and pelvic pain and all of the things. So she is actually a founding member and lead physiotherapist of Endometriosis 360, which is an innovative interdisciplinary virtual group program designed to help individuals with endometriosis. And she is just doing some absolutely fantastic work helping people to understand their pain and, of course, support their pain so that they can have less of it in the future. And she has so much experience and so many fantastic ideas. She has had her own journey, which I will let her share with you. But truly, Jill Mueller really is just a wealth of knowledge and a wonderful individual, and you're not going to want to miss this interview. So stay tuned, check this out, and I will let Jill take it away. All right. Well, hi, Jill. Thank you so much for being here today. I am thrilled to have you on the podcast. I know you have so much to share, so many messages that are going to connect with my audience here. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm glad we finally connected in person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun just connecting with you and getting to know you. I know you're doing so many wonderful things, so I'm excited to be able to share that with everybody. So I would love if you can start off just by sharing a little bit about who you are, what your journey has been like to get you to where you are today, and what you're doing currently.
Ooh, you know what? It's funny about asking that. It is my tendency or my impulse is to like not go into it like we answer in North America where we talk about our job first.
Sure.
My sister lives in France and it's very much like you explain, oh, I'm Jill. I love to do this and I love to do that. Well, a huge passion of mine is in educating people about endometriosis and helping them kind of meander that, understand pain, and then shift things in their life to work towards the goals that they want. So that is a massive passion that I have. I happen to be a physiotherapist. I happen to have endometriosis, and I happen to meld those two together, shift my career into pelvic health, and kind of feel like I've been either pushed or dragged along into this arena, but I'm not kicking and fighting about it. I'm loving it so far, and I work in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. I co-own a clinic here, so we've started an endometriosis program there, as well as gotten involved with this online virtual program called Endometriosis 360 that is an interdisciplinary approach with a psychologist, a dietitian, and Dr. Matthew Leonardi, who is a gynecologist with a focus in endometriosis and sonology. And yeah, just want to get the word out. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So many great things that you're a part of. That's really cool. I know you're a busy gal doing all the different things.
Yeah.
So that's great. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to share with us. So I know one of the big things that you focus on in your practice that you work with people on is just supporting pain, because of course that's a big thing that's a concern for women with endometriosis, as well as just I feel like a lot of women in general struggle with pelvic pain of some kind or another. It's a super common thing that comes up. So I would love if you can share a little bit about that. Just first of all, kind of what the deal is with that pain response that so many people experience, and then even just starting out with some first steps, like where would you begin to approach
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I think the thing that really caught my attention as someone with endometriosis, like I had a lot of pain. I always thought my period pain would be like labor pain, because it felt like it would be that. Of course, everybody thought I was crazy. So when I did finally get pregnant, I took it for the team and gave birth without any pain meds to see. And it was my cramps were just like
Yeah.
contractions. So it wasn't until I heard that people with endometriosis, there are people out there without any pain.
hmm
And I thought, well, how, if it doesn't have to do with the disease, how do I become one of those people? And then as a physiotherapist, I took a course in pain science and learned about sensitization or pain system sensitivity that can happen. In the research world, that's called central sensitization. And I thought, well, is this me? Like I had no idea that I was somebody with chronic pain. I wouldn't identify as somebody with chronic pain because it was cyclical. I kind of had this vision of what someone with chronic pain looked like, and I didn't really fit into that. So when I took this course, I actually started to implement the strategies for myself and got out of my pain entirely. Now, one of the biggest factors to doing that was actually understanding pain.
hmm
And so pain is one output that can happen when our nervous system feels that it's in danger. So pain is 100% of the time determined by the brain, not our tissue. Tissue is one factor it will consider, but we have to look at the bigger context of what's going on in our life. And actually, we do know that most people, a big proportion of people with pelvic pain, have had trauma in their past.
Yes.
And I took a 3-year trauma course. Again, didn't identify as somebody with trauma.
hmm
But there can be little t traumas, there can be big T traumas, and I had a definition of what it was, and it could have been growing up with a sibling who was not doing well, and a lot of your parents' emotional and physical attention had to be brought to that child, and so at the compromise a little bit of yourself. And you don't want to blame your parents, but at the same time, your needs as a child may not have been met, for example. So it doesn't always mean sexual trauma or abuse of any kind. There's lots of different reasons we can have trauma, but we do know the research is pretty strong in showing a correlation between trauma and pelvic pain.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that to the table, because I think that's such an important conversation. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of those key pieces that you're talking about there. First of all, I loved what you were saying about how pain is really coming from the brain, right? We think of pain as being really something that's a direct, I'm even using a simple example of like getting a cut on your finger. You're thinking that the pain, 'cause that's where you feel it, is right around where that cut happened. But what's really happening is that your nervous system is responding to what's happening in your body and even creating that
Yeah.
pain response. Yeah.
And it's designed to get us help.
Yes.
So when we see that cut, even though it may not, if it's not big and we're like, paper cut, that pain probably will go away pretty quick.
hmm
But if it's something more sinister and you're alone or you're not feeling heard, no one's no one's listening to you, you're feeling not validated. Okay, let's just look at what we go through with endometriosis when we
Yes.
go to the doctors, when we go to emerge because of pain, and we're not feeling like anybody's believing us. First of all pain is real. If you
Mhm.
feel pain, you're not making it up.
Yes.
So I think that is also important for people to understand. The driver to that pain may not be why you think. It can be endometriosis, but more in the form of inflammation and probably a lot of other contexts that's going on in your life. But so I don't want to sound dismissive,
hmm
but if we're feeling not heard, not validated, these are also danger messages to our brain, and it will just amplify and magnify that pain response. And people have probably noticed that.
Yeah, totally. I know this is something that I've talked about before on the podcast, how I've personally experienced times when I've been just under a lot of stress for some reason or another, or sometimes it's even just I start having a little bit of pain and then would spiral around that and then all of
For
a sudden
sure.
the pain would magnify. And the second that I would settle myself down. What things I used to do is just like lie down on my bed, put on some, sound frequency
Oh,
tones that were
binaural
just
beats.
absolutely that
Oh,
were
they're
just very
amazing.
calming and
Yeah.
soothing and just deep breathing and just simple things like that would start to bring the pain levels down, which is pretty powerful and awesome to know that there's things you can do like that because you're absolutely right. And thank you, by the way, for saying, pointing out that your pain is real because,
Yeah.
and I think for some people, when you hear the message like, oh, the pain is coming from your brain, it sounds
Yeah.
like, oh, you're just making this up. This isn't even real.
No,
And
but that's
that's not what you're saying.
neuroscience. That's
Yes,
neuroscience. It's not even
totally.
arguable. It's not
Right.
even, if you notice yourself getting mad at that, I would reflect why. A lot of times when we don't understand something, we might get angry, and that's fine and fair.
Yeah.
But I would just urge people to kind of maybe look into why we get pain. And there are great resources for this, but it is an important place to start is to understand maybe why we get pain. And then to your point, if we can do things to kind of calm our nervous system, that's sort of step two. Step
Mhm.
two is really reassuring the nervous system through slowing down if we're in fight or flight, or mobilizing and grounding if we're in freeze, because these are states that can happen
Mhm.
when we're in survival mode. And the next step is because those will help dampen the pain messages, but it doesn't really expand anything from there. So what can happen is when we have pain for a long time, our window of tolerance, as Dan Siegel referred to it as, can kind of start to narrow, and it doesn't take as much to kind of send us into fight, flight, or freeze. And people will probably notice that. But the answer to kind of starting to work on expanding that window is using different strategies like graded exposure therapy, where we have a goal, and maybe the goal is to increase your movement or exercise tolerance. Well, you can't just keep jumping into going back running. And this is what happens with people with endometriosis. I was just as guilty. We are boom and busters. So we'll have like a window during their cycle where we feel really great and we'll get everything done. We'll get our exercise done, we'll get all our chores done. We're going to get all of our errands done within that 2 week window, and then we go into shutdown mode. And but
Right.
ironically, the the intensity that we go about those 2 or 3 weeks where we feel better, that intensity is a little bit of a danger message, and therefore on the other end of that is a worse flare up and or exhaustion.
Yeah.
So it's your people kind of look at it as like, well, I'm in a lot of pain and I'm exhausted, so I have to ever get everything done here in the first 2, 3 weeks before that. But the we actually have to pace in those 2 or 3 weeks in order for the flare up and the exhaustion to actually not be as big of an output. It should be looked at the other way, preemptively. And that's a
Sure.
big thing that we teach in the endometriosis 360 group is what are the strategies to start to change the response that's happening?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I love the way you're talking about that. And I think really this just kind of reflects life in general, right? We tend to think of fixing the problem when a problem comes up, kind of like just even looking big picture with health. People will go into a doctor's office and find out they have high cholesterol or, they're at risk for heart disease or they, they're diagnosed with something like endometriosis or there's some, health flare coming up and that makes you go, oh my gosh, now I'm going to overhaul everything. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to
Yeah.
exercise. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Whereas really the journey is so much smoother when you just think of that on a day-to-day basis. Like I'm just going to generally feed myself healthy and move my body and sleep and just all the basic needs that our body
Totally.
has. If you're doing that all the time, then it's so much easier. And I love that you're bringing that into this conversation as well because it's so true. We wait until we're having that pain response and we're in that flare and now I want to do something about it. Whereas really what we can do is think of approaching that all along the way throughout the whole entire month, the whole entire cycle. We're nourishing ourselves and supporting ourselves and making sure we're getting enough rest and enough sleep and enough downtime and
Yeah.
continuing to nurture and care for ourselves so that we're not having so much coming up, at those
All of a sudden.
other
Yeah.
times. Yeah.
I what was I gonna say? It is a little bit of learning to ebb and flow with your nervous system a little bit
Yeah.
more than, like I said, that boom and bust on a day-to-day basis. It's not rocket science, really. It's like, what movement can I do? And in terms of movement, that's another thing. We tend to go hard when we're feeling better and then nothing. And it's like, well, okay, I kind of get people to think about it this way. If I've been indoors all day and sitting a lot, well, then maybe my movement activity could be outdoors and it could be movement versus like meditating or something in stillness to shift the nervous system. It could be a movement routine to shift the nervous system. There are going to be days where you have a little more energy. Maybe you had good sleep and you could go a little harder. But on the days where you had not as good of a sleep, don't project like, oh, I have to go to the gym 3 days a week and it has to do a hit look like this where it's a hit program. If you had a crappy sleep, have some self-compassion where that day maybe looks like a walk
Yeah.
versus a hit program. So you are learning to ebb and flow a little bit more, it'll definitely your body will respond with much more kindness.
Yes. 100% agree with that. I know I've had that experience myself. It's definitely been a big part of my journey of late is just learning to listen to what my body needs right now and working on that instead of, what I think I should be doing or, kind
Hmm.
of what my typical MO is, which is just go, 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 go. And,
Yeah.
just learning
We
learning
do a
how
lot of
to
shooting on ourselves, don't we?
totally. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Okay. So I would love to dig a little bit more into kind of putting some of these pieces together. I know you've talked a little bit about the trauma piece and the nervous system and the brain and how all of this connects to pain. So then, of course, the next question that everybody's going to have is great. Okay, it's good to know that, but then how do we support that? Because we're used to the ideology, I think, that if there's pain, we're addressing the source of the pain, meaning we're maybe taking a pain medication, which I guess that really is working more on the brain nervous system at the end of the day anyway, in some capacity.
It can be, but when
Can
we're
be.
sensitized, actually, the research shows, and this is good for people to know who have endometriosis, the research is really clear that when we have sensitization, we are more at risk of having all of the side effects of the medication. So, this is what a lot of my patients don't respond well to all of the
Yeah.
medications that we're given. They're trying a million different types. Nothing's really working. Maybe they've had surgery, and we've definitely heard this, where we've had surgery by someone who does excision surgery, so the right surgery. They've shown that it's not in there. Maybe they've done a diagnostic ultrasound afterwards and they're like, nope, it hasn't grown back. Especially if you're getting pain within the first 2 years after that surgery, it is most likely not endometriosis that's driving your pain. It's going to be probably a big chance that it's the sensitization. So
Mm.
if you're one of those people who doesn't respond to medications and doesn't respond to surgery and you're needing more and more surgeries, of course, in the States, they will do that more and more surgeries. But up here in Canada, they won't, which is frustrating for people, but maybe good because you have to look at what are some of the other factors that might be driving this pain. So, to
Mm.
your point, our medical system's set up to put band-aids on things,
Yeah.
figuratively,
Sure.
right? It's like, oh, you have pain. What can we do to make the pain feel better?
Hmm.
Managing. It's all about
Yes.
managing pain. But pain can actually be changed. And I know this is controversial, but the research is really strong in the physio world, in the pain science world, in the psychological world on pain. So don't look at the medical. 96% of medical schools have zero compulsory education in pain in
Mm.
North America.
Wow.
So I will tell them to their face, you don't understand pain because you haven't learned it.
Mm.
I learned it briefly. I have to say physio's adopting it pretty quickly, and in Canada and Australia, especially. The
Mm.
UK is getting there, but the states are pretty behind in taking a biopsychosocial approach.
Yeah.
So there are pockets of people, but it's yeah,
Hasn't
interesting.
quite expanded yet.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully this conversation will help that continue to grow.
Or at least, I mean, I'm not going to have an impact on the medical system, but if we can get to the people to
Yeah,
look for those other opportunities to change pain, which is what I call them, I mean, why wouldn't you?
totally.
It was everything for me. It was everything for
Absolutely.
you,
Yes, it's
right?
been huge.
Yeah.
So, can you share a little bit more then about what that looks like when you're talking about really supporting pain?
Hmm.
What does that look like? What is that kind of support that you're working with people on?
So I really do a thorough assessment to figure out what is the driver to their pain. So
Hmm.
it may be considered nociplastic pain, which or neuroplastic pain, which is what we're talking about. So there's nociceptive, which is where it's the tissue creating some chemical or thermal aggravation to like the cut that you talked about, right? And that's nociceptive pain. But as we go on, we can also have neuropathic pain, which is driven by the nerves themselves that get irritated, which can be a thing. We can also have a mix of all of these things, which is oh so fantastic and confusing. But if the longer we have pain, the more likely it is nociplastic is a big contributor. So, nociplastic being the central nervous system and the brain's perception of pain. So, I look for sort of 5 different things when it comes to somebody coming in. I look for that sensitization that I talked about. I look for people who might be stuck in a pain worry thought cycle because that has definitely also been linked with endometriosis pain. Same with sensitization. I look for conditioned responses. So, this is a really interesting one where the routine and the habits that someone has around their period, leading into their period or leading into the week before their period, may actually be attached or coupled with pain. So
Yeah.
I had a patient who it was outside of her period, but I had her think about her hot pack because that was her routine, and she got cramping.
Yeah.
I also had another patient who noticed that she got or she would get nauseous during her period, and we had her start to pay attention to what was a trigger, and it was when she looked at the blood on her pad. So we actually, I had her mom get fake blood and put it on a pad outside of her period and had it on her bathroom console. She had her own bathroom. And I said, every time you go to the bathroom, look at that pad. And by the time she had her next period, she didn't get nauseous. And she did get nauseous outside of her period when she saw it, but it was a conditioned
Mm-hmm.
response,
Yeah.
right? So there's that. There is something called sensory motor dysregulation, which I don't talk a lot about in our programs and stuff because it's really hard. You have to be in person almost to, not
Sure.
necessarily, but at least one on one with someone to be able to tell if we have a map of the body on the brain. And if our brain has pain in an area for a long time, it can get overprotective of that area and also become a little like smudgy. I know they don't really use this word anymore, but it can get kind of smudgy. And what it looks like as the patient is pain may have started in one area, like on one side, and now it's starting to spread to the back. It's all around the hip. It's like across the abdomen, or maybe it started on one side and now it's on the other side, and it may be flipping from one side to the other. These are sort of cues of this sensory motor dysregulation or cortical smudging. So that's the fourth thing I look for. And then the fifth thing is those local factors. And that's where I might use my hands-on technique to check the mobility of certain structures. But at the same time, the more I look at pain and pain science, I'm like, I wonder if I'm just changing the sensory input. And plus, maybe the person trusts me, which is a whole thing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
If I were somebody mobilizing and doing all this stuff and I didn't feel like a safe thing to them, then they would probably end up in pain.
Yeah.
So it's anyway, I think as a physio, we can kind of use a myriad of tools,
Yeah.
hands-on and psychologically, and staying within our scope of practice. But
Sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So it really depends on the driver of their pain as
Yeah.
to what I am doing. So the first step for me would be figure out which is the driver to their pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you talked about that because that's something that I'm really huge on in my practice is just the idea of bioindividuality, that we're
Hmm.
not all built the same way. We don't all have the same things going on. That's true when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to exercise, when it comes to lifestyle stuff, when it comes to supplements, when it comes to physical, physiotherapy kind of work on your body, when it comes to really anything,
Yeah.
you're figuring out where that's coming from for you. So I love that that's really the first step that you take is exploring that and figuring out kind of what route is going to be best for somebody. So that's awesome. And thank you for walking us through that. So let's say that, and I know this may be a difficult answer, a question to answer just because
No.
there are so many different sources that pain can come from. But once you've determined that, you've figured out, and you said it could be multiple of those. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily just one route, but what would be next steps for you? Let's say you were working with me and I came to you with a lot of pain and you had worked with me to kind of evaluate where that was coming from, then what would be next steps that you would be looking at?
I think I like to, it depends on them. Like if there's
Okay.
someone who likes to understand things, then I may go into a little bit of that because that was something that was really helpful for me. When I understood something, then I was, first of all, more compliant to do something about it. And secondly, could be more aware as I was going along my journey with my health journey and changing things. So for some people, they really want, they're curious to understand that. So I might take some time to explain it to them. Other people come in, they're completely overwhelmed. I'm not going to sit there and explain a bunch of stuff to them if it's way like they're not even able to hear me. So then I just almost jump into giving them a lived experience of change. And what that might look like is if they come in and I'm noticing their nervous system's very activated. First of all, I try and stay calm because then they can co-regulate to me. And then I might say, can we try something? And then it just depends where they have their pain, but I might, or pain or tension or anxiety or whatever is coming in at the time. Okay, I'll give you an example. So a lot of my patients will have medical trauma. And so if they're coming into my clinic and they're seeing my medical table, which is a massage table, but it's vinyl, like there's
Sure.
nothing comfy cozy about it at all. I do intentionally, we have pot lights. I got rid of the fluorescent lights. I put up these like pot light jewelry. We painted it a nice calm color. Like I've done my best to make it not look like a doctor's office.
Yeah.
And then, so I might say to the person, I'm just curious, and I'll take a fuzzy blanket and I'll put it on the table. And I'll say, does that do anything different? And some people, it's like everything. You just see them settle down, their muscles relax, their jaw relaxes. They're like, oh my gosh. And I say, well, I noticed you just kind of relaxed a little bit. What are you noticing? And getting them to reflect, right?
Yeah.
And how does that feel different in your body? Because then I'm using sensory awareness without it being pain that they're paying attention to in the beginning, right? So
Yeah.
you're kind of building up this familiarity with what calm and with what rest and digest state feels like, because that's essentially where safety is felt. And when we feel more safe, pain will start to not be a message. But that state could be unfamiliar, and maybe it's been a long time, if ever, that they've ever felt that way. And therefore their
Yeah.
nervous system won't trust it.
Yeah.
So we actually have to work on building that first so that you have a foundation for them to land on,
I love that so much.
right?
That's so true. I can even speak to that as I've actually also been a yoga teacher for probably 15 years now. It's been a long time. And for anybody who's practiced yoga before, you may know at the very end of a yoga class, you typically do a pose called Shavasana, which is the one where you just lie on your back and close your eyes. And interestingly, I actually find that for some people, that is the hardest pose of the whole class. They'll do all of the physical stuff and love it and be happy and be doing great. But then we get to the part of the class where it's like, okay, just lie down, close your eyes. And I try to even talk people into, helping them to relax into it a little bit. But for some people, that can be super challenging. And I'm sure that it has a lot to do with exactly what you were saying. Just if you're not used to going into that parasympathetic nervous system state, which is that calmer
Yeah,
state, it can feel a little disconcerting. It can feel a little unusual to your body, where maybe I feel like for some people, it can even make you feel a little nervous, a little uneasy, like, is something
absolutely.
wrong? It's too calm. It's kind of
Yes.
like if you've got kids off playing in another room and all of a sudden it gets really quiet. It's like, okay, what's happening? What's going
Yeah.
on here? So I love
And
that you spoke to that. Yeah,
well, and I almost say to them, it's like training for a marathon. You can't just go do one yoga class and be a
true.
calm person,
Yes.
right? If calm person is the equivalent of running a marathon, we need to train for it. You
Mm,
have to be able to do a little bit, let your nervous system come out and go back to its familiarity, and don't shame it. I just say to people, just give your give yourself a chance to notice what calmness feels. Notice how there's that little tug on your shoulder of your nervous system wanting to go do something, to like get away, start being active. and just take a pause, notice that tug, and when it gets too high, then you say, okay, I'll go do something. But then maybe the next time you can do a little bit longer in that stillness. We have to practice stillness
Yes.
nowadays. We have no stillness in our lives anymore,
True. Yes.
right? Yeah, so that is that safety state. That is where the nervous system wants to be organically. That is where our immune system functions most optimally, our hormone system functions most optimally, our digestive system, our vascular system, our lymphatic system, every system in our body, and our muscles won't guard as much. They won't feel like they need to be on guard. So they will start to let go of that tension. So there is this whole reason that we need to shift the nervous system towards that rest and digest space again.
100%. Yeah. And it's something that we definitely have gotten away from in our society. I mean, everything, especially, of course, I can just speak more to the American culture because that's where I've been born and raised here. I don't know if it's similar in Canada, but it's just a
I'm
hustle,
sure.
go,
Yes.
go, go, go all the time mentality. And it's one of those things we talk a lot about the impact of the modern diet on our health and all these other things. But I think just the mindset slash pace that we live our lives can really, really impact the way that we feel. And I love how you were talking about how it really does impact every system in your body. I really want to highlight that because that's so true. It's every single piece of us is so interconnected. All of the systems in our bodies are
Hmm.
interconnected. Our mind and our emotions and our physical bodies are very interconnected. You truly you can't separate all of that. And I think that's where we struggle a little bit as a society too. Because, for example, if you're struggling with a heart condition, what do? You go to a cardiologist. If you're struggling with your gut and having GI symptoms, you go and see a GI
Hmm.
specialist and so on and so forth. And it's very separated. If you're struggling with your mental health, maybe you go and see a therapist. And but really at the end of the day, when we're thinking from a holistic perspective, it's all of it. It's all those pieces tied together. And when we can really think of supporting you as a whole human, that's huge. And
It's
definitely what you were
paramount.
saying as far as starting from there, like let's just calm things down. Let's just bring you into that parasympathetic, calm, relaxed state and just start to get your body used to that a little bit more. I think that's a fantastic way to
Mhm.
start.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at endometriosis, we know it's not just a uterine issue.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
in fact, it might present with period pain
Yeah.
mostly, but to your point, we've got people with bladder pain and that they have to go to
Mm.
a urologist. And as soon as you go to a gynecologist and start talking about your bladder or bowels, "Ugh, don't talk about it. It's not in my school. You have to go see a like a
Right.
gastroenterologist or a
Yes.
urologist. Like it's everybody's separate. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which can be very, very confusing for people too. So if somebody listening to this was saying, okay, like this sounds fantastic, this is exactly what I need, this feels like the type of support that I really need to help with my pain and just all of the things I have going on in my body, what would you recommend is just a good place for somebody to start, even if it's just you're at home and wanting to just do some couple of little things to support your health on a day-to-day basis? What are some of those fun little steps you can take to get started?
I mean, if you're not okay, we're going to go back to what you said. If you're not
Sure.
sleeping well, we need to get you sleeping better. That is like sleeping and eating are like the pillars of health that the foundation. We need to get you resting. We need to get you eating. I cannot believe how many people with endometriosis have disordered eating patterns based on their sensitivity to certain foods and stuff, right? And there's a lot of noise on Instagram too. So the dietitian that we're working with in the endometriosis 360 group it's been eye-opening to me.
Mm,
I had no idea that so many people were struggling so much. And if you think about it, if you're not eating because you think I'm not hungry, which you won't be hungry when you're in survival mode, by the way, not eating is another message of danger to your
mhm.
nervous system. So then you're just kind of ironically fueling the fire of that survival mode, right? So
Yeah.
eating, even if it's mechanical eating, even if it's little bits at a time, is so paramount to getting started,
Yeah.
right? She says, wake up, eat within an hour of getting up, even if it's a
Hmm.
breakfast like little appetizer,
Yep.
right? Ideally, a little protein in there, but just a little, just get that mastication. Let your body know you're not in starvation survival mode,
Yep.
right? And then the sleep, there's lots of information. You can just even chat GPT how to sleep better. There's a lot of sleep habits that
Yeah.
our body likes routine, basically. So if there's going to be anything, get up in the morning, get outside, get sunlight, 10 minutes of sunlight in the morning if you
Hmm.
can. So have your coffee outside, go for like a little walk, just even stand outside. You don't have to stare at the sun. Don't stare at the sun. But don't do it with sunglasses on because that sets up your circadian rhythm. And
Hmm.
then get up and go to sleep. Get up at the same time and go to sleep at the same time
Yeah.
every day, even on weekends if you can. Shift works so hard. So those are the two pillars, but I would say get in movement every day, some form of movement, whether it's stretching, whether it is going to a yoga class or some sort of class, whether it's walking. I don't really care what it looks like. Just move your body because that is also communicating to your brain, okay, I'm okay. It depends on the type of movement you're doing, but you can go hard on the days where you feel good and you feel, but if you are sensitized, which there are questionnaires you can do. There's actually, I made a questionnaire on is it on my website? It's on my Instagram at Endo Together. I have, if you put in test, just go on any
Okay.
of my posts and put in the word test, and it'll send it to you. And it's just this quick questionnaire to see if
Oh,
you have
great.
sensitization or pain worry thoughts. And then it
Awesome.
sends you the answers and what to do to get started. Now,
Oh, great.
yeah, I'm in the middle of changing all that information, but you'll get the answer anyway. That's a good start.
Yeah. Is that something we could link to in the show notes so people can find that
Sure. In a
easily? Okay.
month's time, you're making me get it done. So yes, we'll link it in the show. We'll link something in the show notes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. We'll get something for you guys so you can
Yeah.
find that easily.
Yeah, because if that's the case, then maybe you want to do more slower movements if you're used to
Yeah,
moving fast, or some type of movement if you're not used to moving, right?
right.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and I want to highlight too, I just find this to be so fascinating. It's like there's so many of us out here who are working on holistic health and working from this field, but I can't help but notice every single one of us, we always come back to, are you doing the foundations to take care of your health? Are you
Yes.
sleeping? Are you eating? Are you moving your body? Are you getting sunlight? And the reality is that as much as it sounds so simple, those things, most of us aren't doing it. Or maybe you're doing
No.
one piece but not the others. Maybe you're doing
Yeah.
a few things but you're not getting it in a certain area. But honestly, we so try to overcomplicate our health.
100%. 100%.
That's just
Go back to the basics.
Yes, absolutely. Always go back to the basics. This is something that I remind my clients of all the time, something that I do in my own life as well. When I notice something coming up, when I notice a struggle happening, it's like, okay, well, let me rewind and go back to those foundational things. Have I been moving my body? Have I been sleeping? Have I been eating well? Have I been taking my care of myself in just those basic ways? And usually the answer to one of those questions is like, whoops, I've kind of
Yeah.
slipped in this one area. Let me get myself back on track. And lo and behold, as soon as that happens, things start to click back into place. It's so fascinating how we do that.
And I can understand though that people would need guidance
Yes.
because it can seem overwhelming to your point, right?
Yeah.
It might seem overwhelming. It when you're in it, you don't see it. Like when you're
Yes.
experiencing it, it's not that we become dumb, but quite neurologically, actually, we can't think as well. People have
Yeah.
probably noticed that when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, can't think. Freeze looks like foggy brain, like I can't even, where did I put my keys? Why are they in the freezer?
Right.
That's freeze. Fight
Yes.
flight is your mine looks like a hamster brain. It's like
Hmm.
like a hamster running on the treadmill,
Yeah.
And it you can't see the things like all of the reasons. So I get why people need guidance. If you need guidance because you're feeling overwhelmed, seek it out.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
where I think it's great that there are so many practitioners out there of different kinds who are working with people because I honestly I do find that that's something I do often with my clients is just checking in with them and just, hey, how are things going with this? It's just the having a second set of eyes on
Yes.
and somebody to talk through this stuff with is so helpful because even myself, I've hired practitioners myself to work with just because it's so much harder to do, to do for yourself sometimes.
We
It's
have
like
an
you need someone else to
accountability
tell you.
buddy. They're pointing out
Yes,
our blind spots. They're blind
totally.
spots for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
We haven't seen them. We haven't thought of them.
Yes.
And then a lot of people don't know that these basic things are so important. They
Yeah.
they don't have a clue.
Yeah. Well, and we're
So
not taught in school how to do
no.
a lot of these basics. We're not taught how to eat. We're not taught how to make sure you can sleep well. We're not taught how to move your body in a way that
Yeah.
works for you. Like these are things you're just not taught growing up. Like these are the classes that maybe they should have in school.
Or we
But
learn it a certain way,
yeah.
and that way may not, like, athletes are almost the hardest people for
Yeah.
me to work with because they learn to ignore their body.
Yes.
And therefore, you're teaching them how to listen to their body, and they're confused and frustrated. It's
Yeah.
really hard for them.
Totally.
And so I think that what we call interoceptive awareness, that internal awareness of what our body and nervous system needs is really what I try and teach people.
Hmm.
Because that's where their self-efficacy lies, their confidence in themselves that they can leave the nest, so to say,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I don't want them depending on other people for the answer, right? So it's really I'm a facilitator, a guide, a teacher, and same with you, right? Like where
Yeah,
we're trying to show them what to be aware of, and getting
mhm,
them to reflect on it is really important.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it for everybody.
Mhm.
Awesome. This has been such a great conversation, Jill. I'm so thrilled that to have you on the podcast here. Now, as you're aware, we have recently shifted into from being the Endo Belly Girl podcast into Aligned to Rise. So, one thing that I would love to hear from all of my guests, because of course you're here, of course, not to say that you're perfect, but I know that you've done a lot to bring
Definitely
yourself to
not
where
perfect.
none of us are,
Yeah.
but you've done so much to bring yourself, back into health,
Mhm.
feeling better in your body, all of the things that you've done that you're now sharing with other people. And so I would love to hear how doing that work, how bringing yourself back into alignment has really allowed you to rise into who you are today and what's kind of one of the biggest things that's come out of that for you or the biggest lesson learned along the way for you, whatever comes to mind that you'd like to share.
I think a theme that I see that comes up in my life is to be open and curious about change. Okay, so first of all,
Yeah.
when people have like a narrow window of tolerance, it's almost like we don't they don't like change. right? But the irony in that is nothing's going to change until it changes. Right? So I've always been open and curious, and that I think that's why when I learned about something, it was easier for me to implement something and see. So I kind of take in a lot. I love these conversations because I always learn stuff and might reflect on something and implement it. But I think the biggest thing that people can have while they're going through that is self-compassion. And so you have to kind of not shame yourself along the way. So yes, be open and curious, but if something appears like it has failed, has it, or are you just gathering data and you're going to shift it the next time? So I would say to people, maybe speak to yourself like you would speak to a loved one as you're going through this journey and things are shifting and changing and you're implementing things. And when you have what looks like a step back, reflect on it. It might not be a step back, it might be a shift that you missed the first time or that sort of thing. So just have a little self-compassion along the way. And that I think has been a big thing to help bring me to where I am today.
Awesome. 100% agree with all of that. I've definitely had some similar insights along my own journey. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Well, I know that people after listening to this are going to want to connect with you and learn more about you and the beautiful work that you do. So we'll definitely link to all of this in the show notes as well if you are listening while driving or walking or whatever you're doing. But could you share with us just where the best places are to connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram mostly at endo together, but I'm also on at endometriosis 360. If you are in the Toronto, Canada area, I am in Oakville at Healthy Balance Physiotherapy and Wellness. But I do a
Perfect.
lot virtually. I'm licensed in Ontario, and our program, the Endometriosis 360 program, will be opening up worldwide, though, in the coming months.
Fantastic. That's so exciting to hear. Well, we'll definitely be sure to share all of that and so that you guys can find all those links easily. Definitely go pop over and find Jill on Instagram. Say hi to her. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you.
Would love it.
Well, great. Thank you so much for being here today, Jill. I'm so thankful for you taking the time out of your day. It's been such a lovely conversation. Same as you said, I feel like I always learn so much and take so many beautiful insights away for myself as well. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Alyssa.
All right. Well, have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Aligned to Rise. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to share it with a friend who needs this message too. And then don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next time, my friend. Let's rise together.